You know, every single thing you own, every road you travel on, heck, every bite of processed food you eat, it all points back to one place, the world of manufacturing. It really is the engine that built our modern life. And today, we're going to pop the hood and see how it works. Seriously, just take a second and look around you right now. Think about the shoes on your feet, maybe the sugar you stirred into your tea this morning, or the phone that's probably in your hand or close by. They all seem pretty simple, right? But they share an incredibly complex origin story. I mean, sure, we get them from a store, but that's just the very last step in this long, amazing journey. So what's the real story behind all this stuff? Where does it all begin? See, this isn't just a story about products on a shelf. This is the story of how our entire modern world gets built, piece by piece. In fact, you can pretty much measure the economic strength of a whole country just by looking at the power of its manufacturing industries. So how in the world do we get our heads around something so massive? Well, we're going to start small. We're going to follow a story that kicks off in a bustling market and leads us right onto the factory floor. Let me introduce you to Harish. He's at a vibrant Diwali market with his family, and he's just blown away. He's seeing shops overflowing with clothes and lamps and all sorts of goods, and he asked himself this really simple but brilliant question. How can so many things be made in such huge amounts? And that question from Harish, it gets right to the heart of this incredibly powerful idea, manufacturing. It's basically the magic trick of taking raw materials, things like wood, cotton, or iron ore, and transforming them into much more valuable finished products. Everything from the paper in your book to the steel holding up a skyscraper. Okay, so Harish's question helped us with the what, but now let's dig into the why. Why is manufacturing so unbelievably important? Well, it turns out it's nothing less than the backbone of a country's entire economy. For a lot of developing economies, one of the biggest challenges is being too dependent on agriculture. Now, farming is absolutely vital, don't get me wrong, but it often doesn't create enough jobs or bring in enough money to support a growing population. And this is where manufacturing comes in and becomes a total game changer. It actually helps modernize farming by providing better tools. It creates a ton of new jobs outside of farming, which is a direct blow to poverty. And it juices up the whole economy by expanding trade with exports, bringing in that crucial foreign currency. And you know, it's not a competition between farms and factories. They are completely intertwined. Industries make the tools, the fertilizers, and the irrigation pumps that make farming way more efficient. And in return, agriculture provides the raw materials for industries like textiles and food processing. They really do move hand in hand. Okay, so we've established that manufacturing is vital. But how is this massive world actually organized? It might seem incredibly complex, but there's a surprisingly logical system to it all. You can basically classify any industry by asking just a few key questions. As you can see right here, what's it made from? What's its main job? How much money does it take to start? Who owns it? And how heavy is the final product? Let's just zoom in on one of those for a second. Ownership. So if we look at ownership, you've got two main types. First, there's the public sector, which is run by the government. Think massive operations like the Steel Authority of India, or SAIL. Then you have the private sector, run by individuals or companies, like Tisco, which is Tata Steel. Both are super important, but they're playing for slightly different goals. All right, that's enough of the abstract categories. Let's get real. Let's look at some actual examples and get a feel for the titans that really power a nation's industry. So let's start with textiles, a classic example of an agro-based industry. What's so cool about it is that it's completely self-reliant. The whole value chain, from growing the raw cotton all the way to making that finished shirt or dress you buy, is handled right within the industry itself. Now, for the other side of the coin, a mineral-based giant. Iron and steel is often called a basic or key industry. And why is that? Because you literally can't build much else without it. Every other industry, from car manufacturing to construction, depends on steel for its machinery and its raw materials. It's the foundation. So how do you actually make this foundational material? Well, think of it like a recipe on a truly colossal scale. You start with your raw ingredients, iron ore, coking coal, and limestone. You smelt them all together in a gigantic blast furnace, and then you purify that molten iron to forge the finished steel. But this incredible engine of progress and prosperity, it comes with a pretty big cost. This is the unpaid bill of all that industrial progress, the significant and often hidden impact it has on our environment. Take a look at this number, 1 liter. Just picture 1 liter of untreated wastewater flowing out of a factory. Doesn't seem like much, does it? But the reality is absolutely staggering. That single liter of industrial waste can pollute up to 8 times that amount of fresh water. That is just a devastating multiplier effect. And water pollution is just one piece of the puzzle. Industrial activity really contributes to 4 major kinds of pollution. Air pollution from smokestacks, the water pollution we just talked about, land degradation from waste, and even noise pollution from the constant hum and clang of machinery. Now, this is a serious challenge for sure, but it is not the end of the story. The very same ingenuity that built all these industries can be used to build a cleaner, more sustainable future. Let's take a look at the path forward. For example, to tackle that water pollution issue, there's a clear 3-phase solution. It starts with primary treatment, which is basically mechanical filtering. That's followed by secondary treatment, using biological processes. And finally, advanced tertiary treatment can make the water clean enough to be recycled and reused, a perfect example of sustainable engineering in action. So, this brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? Manufacturing has lifted entire nations out of poverty and built the world we live in. But as we've just seen, it's come at a steep cost to our planet. The great challenge of our time is this. Can we redesign this powerful engine of progress so that economic growth and environmental health are no longer fighting each other, but can finally move forward truly, hand in hand?